Hi everyone, this is Anam Pirzada and I am the lecturer for Management Accounting. Management Accounting is a compulsory course for students who opt the BSc Accounting and Finance program under the EMFSS program. This course is usually taken in year 2 or year 3 depending upon the student's course schedule. So today, the topic that I'm going to be covering in management accounting is absorption versus marginal costing. This is the chapter 2 and chapter 4 of the study guide and the essential reading. I'm covering this topic why key to learn management accounting is basically to understand the absorption costing. Management accounting's foundation lies upon the distinction between these two key terms, absorption and marginal. So, what we're going to be looking at today is the key objectives of the topic that I'm going to be covering is number one, what are the key terms used in management accounting? Number two, we're going to understand the difference between absorption costing and marginal costing. Number three, we're going to understand some further terms for calculation purposes because it's a numerical subject and we'll be doing a lot of calculations in this topic. So we're going to understand what are overheads, then we're going to understand what are cost drivers, then we're going to learn how to calculate the overhead absorption rate, which will actually then lead us to the key of this accounting concept, which is over under absorption. Now, over under absorption is one of the most difficult areas of management accounting. Unless and until the students don't understand what the absorption costing is, what marginal costing is, and how to calculate over under absorption, the students won't be able to move forward. This is the topic that creates the base of management accounting. Once this is understood, then management accounting is not going to be difficult for anyone. And then we are going to do a solved example to understand the overall concept, and I'm going to summarize the concept for you. The solved example is actually has been taken from your past paper question from 2011, Zone A from the management accounting question paper, right? So we are going to run through all the key objectives one by one, and by the end of the lecture, I'm hoping that you would have no problems understanding absorption costing, marginal costing, and the overall concept and how to attempt a question on this concept. All right, to move forward, management accounting revolves around 4 to 7 main concepts, which we're going to be using again and again. So it is very important and imperative that students actually understand the key terminologies that we're going to use forward. So the first term is plainly simple. It's used everywhere in the organization, in market, in by everyone, by every business person, and it's called revenue. Revenue is obviously what is revenue? It's sales that the organization makes to sell their product. How do you calculate revenue? Revenue is calculated by the number of product units or the number of products that the organization sells multiplied by the selling price per unit. We get total revenue. So there is no technicality in this word. Revenue is revenue. Everyone is concerned in their business nowadays. How much revenue have you earned, right? So there is no technicality behind this term. Then we're going to come to variable costs. Variable costs are costs that are linked to the production of units. So, variable cost with the name variable actually stands for costs that vary. With what? With units. So, management accounting is basically called cost accounting, and it revolves around the costing of your production, of your material that you're actually producing, your goods that you're actually producing to sell to the organization, right? So we need to understand what are we paying to actually make our product and launch it in the market. So that is what all cost management, cost accounting and management accounting is all about. So variable costs are costs that are actually, they vary with the production of the units. So if we don't produce anything, we don't have any variable costs, right? So the key example of variable cost is raw materials. Unless and until we don't have raw materials brought into the production house, into our warehouse, there won't be any variable cost. So variable costs are costs that are directly linked to the production of your product or your units. Then we have fixed costs. Fixed costs, as the name states, are fixed. They're constant. They don't actually apply to, or they don't depend upon any production or production of the units. These are costs that will take place whether you produce anything or you don't produce anything, right? So fixed costs are costs that you'll have to incur in any case, whether there is any activity going on in the organization or not. So the example of such costs are that if you have a warehouse, so the warehouse, the purpose of the warehouse is to stock your inventory, is to stock any material that you want to purchase. Now, you're not still making anything, you're not producing anything, yet you have to pay the rent for the warehouse, yet you have hired security guards as to protect your warehouse material because the inventory might be very expensive. So you're paying salaries to those guards, right? So all these expenses that you're incurring to pay off the warehouse expense, rent expense, the warehouse electricity expense, the guards' salary, they have nothing to do with the production. I don't know whether the production has started or not, but all these expenses are taking place. So these are called fixed costs, costs that remain constant whether units are produced or not. And we come to semi-variable costs. Semi-variable costs are costs that have both the elements of variable costs and fixed costs. And the prime example is electricity or telephone bill. So what happens is, in a telephone bill, if you've ever seen your telephone bill at home, you will see that there is a fixed line rent that you have to pay, right? Whether you're calling anyone or not, it does not matter. You'll still have to pay a fixed line rent, which is the rental that is being paid to the company that you have for the telephone services. But when you start calling people, when you start making phone calls, then you will start incurring the call cost based on the number of minutes that you've spent calling the other person, right? Now, the number of the cost that you incur depending upon the number of minutes or the hours you've spent calling is the variable cost part, because it varies when you dial the number and call someone actually. But the line rent that you're paying on a monthly basis, does not matter you're making calls or not, but you're still paying it, is known as the fixed element. So there are some costs that are semi-variable. That means there is a semi-variable portion in it and there is a fixed portion in it. Further on, when we will be doing management accounting, we will be doing a method called the HILO method, where we will learn how to segregate fixed costs and variable costs from semi-variable costs. So we will be doing that in the future as well, right? All right. Now, the key area. Everyone who is in the business, everyone who's who is running an organization, they will be concerned with these three terminologies. These three terminologies are the key to an organization's expansion, investment, and the purpose behind an organization's startup, right? So the first is called contribution. Contribution is a key terminology that is only used in management accounting. Why? Because it actually explains us how much the organization has contributed towards its profits. Contribution is actually, it tells us, it explains us how much the company has recovered from its variable costs only. It does not take into account any fixed costs. It only is concerned with how much the company has covered selling their finished goods or their items in the market, and how much of those sales has covered their variable costs, their costs that were directly linked to the production of the unit. So contribution is actually revenue minus variable cost. So you need to memorize the formula. Obviously, the formula of contribution will be used widely going forward, so you have to be very alert whenever the examiner questions you about contribution. You have to be very specific on what costs are involved in the calculation of contribution. So as I've stated here, it says revenue minus variable cost. So variable cost means all variable cost. We're going to go forward and understand cost matrix, which will actually make these terminologies much easier. But I started with explaining these terms. Why? Because once we've gone through these terms, then it will be very easy to look back to it, to come back to it, and then it will be clearer on how we're going to make our calculations much easier. Net profit, it's everyone knows what profit is. But does everyone know how to calculate it? No. People ask every business person, are you making any profits? It's not that simple. The profit calculation involves two steps. The first step was to calculate the contribution, which was actually subtracting all variable costs from revenue. Coming to net profit is the overall profit of the organization, which the organization makes after recovering both their variable costs and fixed costs. So in short, variable costs and fixed costs combined makes up the total expenses, total costs of the organization. So when we are subtracting the total cost from our sales, we get the net profit, right? And that is exactly what has been explained here. Revenue minus variable cost minus fixed cost. We can also write it down as contribution minus fixed cost, because this area is actually your contribution. So net profit could also be explained in as contribution minus fixed costs. Then we have the third area, which is the break-even point. The break-even point is the point where the organization doesn't make either a profit or a loss. This is where the net profit comes to zero, and net profit is zero when contribution equals fixed cost, which means that what you earned recovering your variable cost equals the costs that are fixed, that are expenses that are fixed, that you have to pay in any case. A break-even point is very important for any organization. This is the point what the organization, the strategic management, is actually looking forward to. Before starting any organization's analysts take out feasibility reports. They calculate at what period the organization will start making a profit. For that calculation, the break-even point is the key. It plays the key role. The break-even point is the point where the organization makes a sales up to a point where they've started covering their fixed cost. For example, if you've sold, let's suppose, 10,000 units. Selling 10,000 units, the revenue equals your total cost, right? So where revenue equals your total cost, by total I mean both variable and fixed. That means now from further 10,000 units, any unit sold above 10,000 will reap you a gain, will reap you a profit, right? So the organization is concerned at the beginning how many units should be produced and sold in the market which will actually fulfill the organization's total cost. And that is where break-even comes into play. Alright, now we've understood all the terminologies, but can we show them in a graphical representation? Now this is also a key area in management accounting, is where you need to understand how the graphs of all these terminologies can be drawn, right? So let's start with variable cost. As I said, so on the y-axis we have the total cost, and on the x-axis we have the volume of production, right? So the behavior of variable costs is a straight line starting from the point 0. It's very important because if there is no production, there is no variable cost, right? That is exactly how I explained it. So that is why it's a straight line that starts from the point 0, and as the volume of production increases, if you're following my cursor here, so as the volume of production increases, your cost increases with it. So it is a straight line that represents variable costs, right? Then we come to the cost behavior of fixed cost. These figures are all in your essential reading. That's where I've taken it from. It's figure 6.1, so it has been taken from different chapters, which explains the graphical representation. It is a separate chapter in your guide that is a totally graphical representation of all the costs and contribution and net profit and break even that we've done. This is we will be doing this topic in detail later, which is called the CVP analysis, cost volume profit analysis. Cost volume profit, these three things is what cost accounting revolves around. Cost, the types of costs, we're going to break it up further. Volume, how much we're selling, how much we're producing, how much profits we're getting. So CVP analysis is the key in management accounting. And all of the cost accounting revolves around these three words. Alright, coming back to cost behavior of fixed cost. Fixed costs are, as we said, fixed. They don't change with the change in volume. So again, the y-axis represents the total cost of the resource or the total cost, and the x-axis represents the volume of production, the volume. As you can see, the fixed cost is a straight line. Why? Because it does not depend on the changing of the volume of the production, as I explained earlier. So fixed cost is a straight line. Yes, the upper line, what does it represent? This is called step fixed cost. Step fixed cost means, I'm going to give you an example. When you rent out any place, if you have a property that you want to rent out, you're going to have a rent agreement which states that for a year the rent will be, let's say, for example, 50,000, right? And the agreement will state that every year there will be an increment in the rent amount of 10% or 5%. Now, the fixed cost is the rent here, which has no link to the volume of production. Yet, there will still be an increase in the fixed cost rent after an annual on an annual basis. Why? Because of inflationary impact, because costs increase over years, right? That does not mean that because it's going to increase, it is a variable cost. Increase signifies that it can step up. So two lines in fixed cost actually explains that costs can increase, but still they won't have any link to the volume of production. So if we make a straight line here, which will imply that it is a step, like a staircase, right? So step fixed costs or fixed costs are one and the same thing. The only difference is that fixed costs remain constant, and all those costs that will increase with time due to inflationary impact become step fixed costs. So that's why two lines have been drawn, and there is, let's suppose, a dotted line in between. Now, how can we make the graph of total cost, combining both the variable cost and fixed cost? The third one here represents that. Now, the line, as you can see, of total cost does not start from point 0, because when you're going to introduce fixed cost to it, it will have to show the portion that is fixed. So making a line, as based on my cursor, if you see, if I draw a dotted line here, that is the fixed cost part of the total cost line. And then this area, this small area, represents the total fixed cost, and then the cost starts increasing, which represents the variable cost. So this cost line represents both semi-variable costs and total costs, right? So this is very important to actually know how costs, the graphs of the cost behave, and what each graph represents from the costs. The cost matrix. Now coming back to overheads. The terminology overheads is used vastly in management accounting. What does overhead actually mean? We're going to see it forward. Let's look at this cost matrix. Cost matrix is something that you need to memorize in management accounting, we're going to come back to this matrix again and again. And it's very important to distinguish between four kinds of cost: variable costs, fixed cost, direct cost, indirect cost. Direct cost. Direct costs are costs that are directly associated with the production of units. And indirect costs are costs which have nothing to do with the production of the units, production of your resource, production of whatever good that you're making. But these are costs that are external to the production. And external how? External that they support the production unit overall. So indirect costs are supporting costs that support the actual production of the units. Variable costs can be both direct and indirect, as we can see in this table. Variable costs that are direct is also known as direct material and direct labor. There are no other direct costs apart from these two costs. This is a comprehensive list of costs in this cost matrix. So all variable costs that are direct in nature are only two: direct material and direct labor. And these are also called prime costs. Prime, why? Because they are prime to the production of your units, right? Then we come to indirect cost. Indirect costs can be production overheads. Now I've introduced the word overheads. So now overheads are actually indirect costs. So it is another name for indirect costs, costs that have nothing to do with the direct production of the units, but these are costs that are still supporting the overall production, right? Variable production overheads. What are the examples? What are the example of these costs? So let's suppose that you have a production house where the production of your raw materials are taking place, and there are different departments. Let's suppose that you're manufacturing, let's suppose, cricket bats, right? It's the cricket season and you're producing cricket bats. The raw material needed for cricket bats would be wood, right? A certain type of wood. And then when the wood is brought in, the raw material is then worked upon by labor to put it into production to form the proper shape. So the wood is shaved, the wood is put into the assembling department, the wood is assembled to form a shape of a cricket bat. And then the cricket bat then goes into the paint department, it is painted upon, then it goes into the testing department to see whether it's strong, is there any defect, is there any problem. So all these departments are actually are busy with production of the bat itself. But there are two kinds of labor working on it. One who is directly involved with the production, two supervisors, managers, who are not directly involved with the production, but they're supervising the whole of the unit, right? Now, they are the support system. Payments given to supervisors are actually called overheads. And how are they variable? Because there might be a certain clause in a contract that these supervisors are paid on a contractual basis. Contractual meaning, if the production takes place, then only they will have to supervise, right? If there is no production taking place, then their role has no purpose. So that is why they are variable production overheads. They are costs that are indirect to the production, but they still vary with and are directly linked when the production is taking place. Then we come to fixed costs. Fixed costs can never be direct because fixed costs are always indirect. Indirect fixed costs can be fixed production overheads, again similar to the case of the supervisor's salary. Let's assume that there is a guard hired to oversee the whole production. He's sitting outside. Whether a production is taking place or not, the guard has to be paid off. But why is it a production overhead? Because he has been assigned to the production department. That is called fixed production overhead. Then we have other types of overheads which are non-production related. has nothing to do with production. They're only the support part. So we have administrative overheads, we have selling overheads, we have marketing overheads. OH stands for overheads. And then we have finance costs. Finance costs are costs basically that deals with if the organization wants to finance anything, any project, it'll have to take loan from the bank or from any other place. Any loans taken, any interest paid on loans, is actually a part of finance costs. So fixed costs are all indirect in nature. That is why the other name for fixed costs are overheads. This cost matrix is the key in management accounting because it segregates what is variable, what is fixed, what is direct, what are overheads, right? So I'm hoping that once you actually memorize this table, you won't have any problem in segregating the costs in any question. Cost drivers are actually what derives the overheads, right? So now we're going to use cost and overheads interchangeably. What derives the cost? What is actually the basis that which leads to the incurring of the cost is called a cost driver. Let me give you an example. My machine broke down during my production. So I paid off, let's suppose, 1 lakh rupees to repair my machinery because there was a certain defect in it, and it had to be, obviously, it had to be repaired so that my production would continue and there is no problem in it. Now, that is a cost I had to incur. Why? Why did I have to pay for repairs for the machine? What actually derived that cost? Any ideas? Anything that comes on top of your mind? Machine hours. Because the machine was continuously working. It was running, so the running time of the machine led to a problem because there was no break involved, or maybe that machine was the key to produce your product. So the higher the machine hours taken, the more costs on the machine you'll have to incur. So the machine costs that was born as actually derived because there was a lot of number of hours taken. So cost drivers are actually what are the core basis of that cost being incurred. Now, the main basis of salaries, you pay salaries to your employees. Why do you pay them? Because they're putting in their time. So labor, the number of employees in an organization are the basis that is used to calculate the total salary of the organization, right? So every cost has a driver, and it is very important to distinguish what cost is derived by what factor. There are two kinds of factors: volume based factor cost driver, non volume based cost driver. Volume based cost drivers are cost drivers that are generated based on a number, a numerical number, right? For example, machine hours, you can quantify it. Labor hours, you can quantify it. So volume based cost drivers are quantifiable cost drivers that you can calculate based on the number of quantity. Let's suppose your overheads are your factory rent, right? You're paying the rent of your factory. Now, how can you calculate what derives the rent? How was the rent actually calculated? It must have been calculated on the square feet area, right? How much area does the factory cover is directly proportional to the rent amount. Now, the rent is actually calculated based on different areas. So, your floor area again is a volume based driver which derives the cost of rent. Similarly, non-volume cost drivers are quality drivers. They are not based on any numerical number. They are not quantifiable, based on activity that is taking place. Non-volume based cost drivers are mostly used in service industries, in industries that provide services to you, right? For example, you go into a restaurant, they want to know whether their food was good or not, so they give you a survey, a form. You fill out the comments, you fill out the survey, and then you give it back to them. Now, that survey must actually derive the cost that they pay to the manager of that restaurant, right? So, if the survey gives a good qualitative good comment, it's more subjective, right? It is non-volume based. So that survey derives the cost paid to the manager or the supervisor or the head of that restaurant. Let's do a little bit of reading. So volume based cost drivers are output unit level costs of activities performed on each cost unit. An example is the cost of servicing a machine, where the amount of servicing depends on the volume of production. So, volume based cost drivers are actually quantitative volume drivers, cost drivers. So, if you have to actually, so my example was regarding the repairs of a machinery. So, the repairs could actually be derived either by machine hours or by the volume of units produced in production. Coming to non-volume based cost drivers, these are sustaining costs of activity performed for an entire group of products, regardless of how many units will be produced. So this is basically not directly linked to any quantifiable approach, right? The example is the production of prototypes or the completion of market research. In both cases, the total number of products is irrelevant because these are activities. Now, your research and development, what could be the cost driver behind it? Innovation, ideas generated by employees, right? So, non-volume based cost drivers are more subjective. The examples of volume based and non-volume based cost drivers: labor hours, machine hours, production units, material units, raw material units, kgs, liters, floor area for rent. And non-volume based could be your administrative side, your supervisor's salary could also be your non-volume based profit if the supervisor was mostly involved in research or was involved in branding or was involved in marketing in the sales team could be a non-volume based cost driver. Now, coming to what we're actually here for, to calculate OAR. OAR is called the absorption method. OAR is the first step to calculate absorption rate, which is used in absorption costing. At the end, we are going to differentiate between absorption and marginal costing. But before that, it's very important to understand what absorption rate is. Absorption actually means dealing with overheads. Marginal means dealing with variable costs. Now, can you remember the cost matrix we've already done? When I said overheads, it should have come directly to you what overheads are, and that was the indirect cost column, right? So the indirect cost column, both variable and fixed, are a part of overheads, right? But for marginal costing, we only are concerned with variable cost. So now, do you remember the horizontal area? Both indirect and direct, but total variable cost, right? Let me go back again. There you are. So, marginal costing deals with only this area, variable cost, all kinds, both direct and indirect. But absorption costing deals with only indirect costs. Could be production overheads, could be overheads that are fixed. But when we go in detail, we're going to see that absorption costing only deals with fixed indirect costs, fixed overheads, because variable overheads was already dealt with in marginal costing. So when we're going to add it on to absorption costing, we will have to calculate how fixed overheads behave in that sense and what is the major difference in calculating, again, contribution, net profit and break even using both absorption costing and marginal costing. The first step is to identify the total fixed cost. Now it looks pretty easy, but trust me, it isn't, because until and unless you're not clear with the cost matrix concept, the examiner is going to confuse you with giving costs that will confuse you in understanding whether it was indirect or direct, whether it was variable indirect or fixed indirect. Now I've written fixed here. Why? Because my fixed overheads are used in absorption costing, as I stated before. So we are going to identify the total fixed overheads first, calculate its cost, and the second step is to identify the appropriate cost driver which pertains to those fixed overheads. And then the third step is to divide the total fixed overheads by the cost driver, which gives you the OAR, which gives you the overhead per cost driver. Overhead per unit if it is a volume based cost driver, overhead per subjective judgment if it is a non-volume based cost driver. Now, to distinguish between absorption and marginal costing, we will be only focusing on production overheads right now, right? Because we have to identify and calculate the difference in contribution using both marginal costing and absorption costing. So what I'm going to do is, now I've given you a part of your past paper question. We're going to work through this example. I'm going to work through this example with you, and I'm going to most probably use Excel, so that I try to incorporate Excel sheets in my tutorials. Why? Because looking at me doing Excel will actually, you will familiarize yourself with it. And Excel is a tool that is necessary for all accountants, all cost accountants, to be familiarized with, because they're going to be using it, you all will be using it in your future employment. So I want to do two things. Now we're going to read through the question, and then we're going to solve the question together on Excel, and I'm going to tell you how to use the Excel in between as well, right? Alright, so the question states that the unit selling price of the product is 30 pounds. The variable selling cost per unit is 6 pounds. The variable manufacturing cost per unit. Now you're going to see that there are two kinds of variable costs here. Variable selling costs and variable manufacturing costs. These two are actually could be segregated into direct and indirect cost, right? So then we have the annual budgeted volume, which is what you have produced. Then you have the annual fixed factory costs, which is 24,000, and you have the annual admin fixed costs, which is 20,000. So we have again two kinds of fixed costs. We have factory costs, which are production related, and we have admin costs, which are non-production costs. I explained the difference between production and non-production in the cost matrix. So you can see that the whole question wants you to actually segregate cost matrix in your mind. What are variable, what are fixed, what are direct, and what are indirect. The question then gives you information on the inventory, the production and sale in 2 years, right? As I stated, this is a question of 2011 zone A. So the question, I've not written the question because this was just a small part. Absorption and marginal costing is actually a small part of a bigger picture that we're going to do next, which is traditional absorption costing versus activity-based costing. So this question was related to activity-based costing, and the first part of the question stated that we need to calculate the absorption, we need to calculate the contribution and the net profit using both absorption and marginal costing. Move on to calculating it. I'm going to again segregate. Absorption costing is a costing tool that uses fixed overheads in its contribution as well, and makes it a part of its contribution, whereas marginal costing is only concerned with the costing of variable items, right? Now, because in this question, what we're going to do is we have to calculate the costs of your sales. So we're going to focus on cost of sales. Now, what will be the cost that we have to calculate for the opening inventory, the production, and the closing inventory, obviously. So for that, we are going to, that's where absorption and marginal costing comes into play. Alright, so now we have Excel in front of us. We are going to switch between the question and Excel interchangeably so that we can actually solve it and look at the question through it. So I think it's not going to give you a headache if I interchangeably solve it. So I'm going to type absorption versus marginal costing here so that we clarify. So it's a 2011 Zone A question from your past paper. It's just a part of it. Going back to the question, I'm going to draw this table here because it's very important. So we have 2009 and we have 2010. We have production units. We have, it gives us opening inventory first. Then we have production units and then we have the sales, right? So opening inventory was 2000 units. Production was 12,000 units. Sales was 13,000 units. This was year 2009. Then we have opening inventory in 2010 was 1000. Production was 13,000 and sales was 12,000. Let's recheck. Yes, I was correct. All right. Now, because we have to calculate the cost of sales, how do we calculate the cost of sales? Cost of sales, you all must also be taking financial accounting, and you must have taken financial accounting or principles of accounting in year 1. So I'm assuming that your base of cost of sales and income statement is already with you. I'm not going to go into detail. So cost of sales is opening inventory plus purchases minus closing inventory, right? So we need to calculate the cost of your sales. So this actually gives you, I'm going to say, sales units. So your sales units is equal to what you had in your warehouse, what you made during the year, your finished goods, and what was left after you sold a part of it. Now in this table, we have opening inventory, we have the production for the year, which is also purchases or finished good production, and you have sales. So what is missing here is closing inventory. So using this formula, I'm going to create it here. So what I did here was shift, space bar, and plus sign. This is a technique where you actually add a row in Excel, right? Alright, so if I want to calculate my closing inventory, I'm going to apply this formula here, which I'm going to highlight. Highlighting tool is right above. So your closing inventory equals add your opening inventory plus your production minus what you sold is what you're left with. So what you had in stock and what you made during the year and what you sold from the stock leaves you with the remaining items in the warehouse, which is known as closing stock or inventory. Inventory and stock are also used interchangeably. So again, I'm going to, my closing inventory becomes my opening inventory in this year. So technically, the examiner gave you the closing inventory of the first year themselves, because the closing inventory becomes the opening of the next year. So I did it, why? Just to show you that our calculation is correct. Now we're going to calculate the closing inventory of the second year as well, which is again what we had and what we sold is 2000, right? So I'm going to put a decimal here because these are all numbers, and because we all our questions are thousands and million based, so we're going to segregate it like that, and we're going to read it in thousands and millions. Alright, now the key of the question, what the question asked was to calculate contribution and net profit under both marginal costing and variable marginal and variable costing and absorption costing. Marginal costing is also called variable costing because it only takes into account variable production and variable direct costs. And absorption costing takes into account fixed production, variable production and variable direct cost, right? Alright, so I'm going to give a heading here. Let me just make a so I'm going to segregate it a bit through making borders. So this is going to be marginal costing sheet, and I'm going to make an income statement because income statement is what you're going to use, what you're going to make to actually calculate your contribution. You already know that by now because you've done principles of accounting, right? So I'm going to make a format here, and the format of an income statement is to create dollar signs. The first one is used for working, the other one is for finalization, and I'm going to add absorption costing sheet here, and I'm going to write income statement in brackets to identify between the both, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a border so that we can actually see. So sales revenue that we started off this lecture with comes here. Then we have less cost of sales, which gives you opening inventory, and we have add purchases less closing inventory. I'm using abbreviations. We can use that in management and cost accounting. Every accountant, every cost accountant are familiar with the abbreviations, so you can use them as well. Then we have, I'm going to say contribution slash gross profit here. Remember, what was the formula for contribution? Revenue minus variable costs. So all variable costs, if we deduct it from revenue, so these will be the cost of sale, it will be all in variable cost terms. So sales minus this will give you contribution in marginal costing. So marginal costing, in marginal costing, the contribution is the key term that is used instead of gross profit. But in absorption costing, the cost of sales includes fixed production overheads as well, which makes your contribution not contribution anymore. It makes it gross profit now because you have included a portion of fixed production overheads in your costing in absorption costing, right? Alright, so I'm going to create a little space here by extending my rows and columns. So let's actually come to here below. After contribution you have less fixed, other fixed costs. You have, or you could say fixed costs, and we can have fixed costs here, right? In marginal costing, all fixed costs go below the contribution line. In absorption costing, all fixed cost other than production fixed cost goes below the contribution line, right? So I'm going to write down fixed production costs for marginal costing, and I'm going to write fixed admin costs for absorption sheet, right? Or what I could do is I could copy all this for your clarity and again paste it here. It'll be easier so that I can eliminate few stuff that is not needed here, right? And then we have obviously the net profit. The net profit was all costs deducted from revenue gives your ultimately net profit. So again here will be the net profit. Alright, coming on to sales, I'm going to write a part of the question here. So selling price per unit was 30. I'm going to write 30 here. Variable selling cost, V selling cost, V stands for variable, was 6 per unit. These are all per unit, right? Per unit. And then we had variable manufacturing cost, which was 8 pounds per unit. So I've written 8 here. Then we have the budgeted volume. what is the difference between the volume given here and this? A budgeted volume is a volume that you had predetermined your expectation standing before the year begins. So whatever you identify at the beginning of the year is called budgeted costs and budgeted volumes, and whatever actually incurs is the actual cost and actual volume. Why do we have budgeted volume? I will show you the use of that. So I'm going to write budgeted units here, which was 12,000, right? I think I've added an extra 0. I can go on my tab here and reduce it. Again, I'm going to all put them in bars, in commas. And then we have annual fixed factory cost. So factory means production. So fixed production cost is 24,000. And then we have fixed admin cost, which was 20,000. All right. Now, we're going to fill in this sheet. I'm going to fill in the sheet in front of you. To calculate sales, we have sales in 2009. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to make the sheet for 2009 for now, right? And this absorption costing sheet will be also of 2009. And once I've explained you 2009, 2010 will be very easy for you to make. Okay. Sales was 30 pounds per unit. Total sales unit in 2009, let me highlight sales by giving it a different color. So my sales was 13,000 in 2009. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to click here and multiply it with the here. So Excel is basically a calculator as well. Excel is an amazing tool. I can use it for explanation. I can even calculate everything here. So here we have 390,000 is our sales. Coming to cost of sales. Now we have the units of all these three, but we don't know what to value it with. This is where marginal costing versus absorption costing comes into play. As I said before, in marginal costing, we are going to use only variable costs. Can we calculate the total variable cost here? Yes. Total variable cost, direct was manufacturing and indirect was selling. So using total variable cost of 14, we can actually value our cost of sales. So opening inventory will be 2000 into 14. Our purchases will be 12,000 production units into 14. Now we are going to use 14. Why? Because under marginal costing, all costs of sale will be calculated using only variable cost. So I'm going to put variable here and delete it here, right? And you bringing the cost matrix back into your mind, you remember that variable costs are both direct and indirect. So here variable manufacturing cost was direct cost. It was a combination of material and labor. And variable selling cost was indirect variable cost, which was a part of variable cost, but it was indirect. It was an overhead. But marginal costing states that all variable costs must be used to value cost of sales, right? Then we have less closing inventory. So I'm going to put a minus sign with it into this, right? So if I may, this becomes my cost of sale. I'm going to add it together using the sum formula, as you can see. And I'm going to put negative to it because it is sales less cost of sales. So this is overall cost of sale. I'm going to put a border around it so it's easier for you guys. I'm going to put an outside border here. And then we're going to calculate contribution. Now, if you've seen in the marginal costing sheet, I haven't used fixed cost anywhere as yet. Fixed production costs, right? Why? Because that's where absorption costing comes into play. So contribution is your sales minus your cost of sales gives you contribution. I'm going to highlight it. And now we're going to less our fixed costs. I'm going to just, because I've written it before, I don't want to write it again. So I'm going to put an equal sign and Excel will add it themselves. So we have fixed production cost and admin cost here. I'm going to again give a total to these two costs. We have 44,000 because we have to deduct these costs from your contribution. So the net profit under the marginal costing approach is 164,000. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a double line to it, which gives me my final answer. Formatting is also very important in Excel. It gives you a very nice view of the question. I started the lecture with introducing the terminologies which we are actually now using for our calculation. Revenue, variable cost, fixed cost, semi-variable cost, contribution, net profit, break-even we will be using later on, right? Coming on to absorption costing. Absorption costing is a little tricky. Absorption costing uses the word gross profit here instead of contribution. Gross profit is another word for contribution, but we use gross profit. Why? Because it includes fixed production overheads as well. Sales will be the same. There is not going to be any different. We're going to use 13,000 into 30 because per unit sales remains the same. There is no difference in sales whatsoever. Coming on to cost of sales. Now, in absorption costing, we have to use fixed overheads as a part of cost of sales. How can you do that? We have 24,000. As you can see, fixed overheads are not given in a per unit basis as compared to variable cost here in the question. The reason being because fixed cost is constant. Fixed cost is not directly linked to any production units, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to calculate overhead absorption rate, and overhead absorption rate will help convert our overall fixed overheads into a per unit basis here. So overhead absorption rate equals fixed production, equals, gives the Excel starts giving you formulas if you write equal to. So I'm just going to say fixed production overheads divided by budgeted units. Now the question you might ask from me is, why didn't I use the actual units here in 2009? My answer is the formula for OAR states that you have to calculate an appropriate predetermined cost driver. If I go back to my example, I wrote identify appropriate cost driver pertaining to the fixed overheads. Now your fixed overheads were calculated at the beginning and fixed overheads remains constant. So the cost driver should be something that was also identified at the beginning. So I'm going to add a word here which is identify appropriate predetermined cost driver. So the predetermined, appropriate predetermined has been highlighted here while calculating. So that is how we make minor changes, because as we work through an example, things become more clearer and more detailed through doing a question of cost accounting. Any costing, any accounting course requires you not to only focus on the concepts but practice. The game of passing, the rule of passing accounting courses, all accounting courses, is two things: clarity of concept and a lot of practice. That is why whenever I deliver my lectures, I always end my lecture with a past paper question so that the students are clear with the concept and they know how to apply the concept to the question given by the examiner. What happens is, in this process, the students become so confident in attempting the questions at the end of the term, that they're very confident with their concept as well. So I would always advise everyone, all students doing accounting courses, be it reporting, be it principles of accounting, be it banking and finance, be it financial management. All these courses require you to understand the concept and apply it simultaneously. If you don't practice parallel, you won't be able to clarify your concept. Now, I did not add predetermined cost driver beforehand. If we wouldn't have done the question, we wouldn't have identified this tiny but very important detail, right? So going back, we're going to calculate the OIR based on the formula that I showed you. So fixed production overhead was 24,000 and the budgeted units or the predetermined cost driver was our volume of production here, because we haven't been given with any other cost driver. So I'm assuming that this is the cost driver most appropriate to fixed production overheads because it relates to production. So now my OAR equals 2, right? So absorption costing states that to calculate the value of cost of sales, you have to add both variable cost and fixed production overhead cost into the cost of sales. So my total variable cost plus fixed production overhead cost equals 14, which was my total variable cost, plus 2, which I just calculated using the OAR approach. So now you can see that the absorption costing sheet will give you a more expensive cost items, because we've added the production overhead in it too. So the key difference in marginal and absorption costing is in marginal costing, the opening inventory and the production are valued at a lower amount because it only takes into account variable cost. Whereas in absorption costing system, the opening inventory and the purchases will give you a higher amount because it includes an additional cost of fixed cost. So my opening inventory will be now 2000 into 16, not 14 anymore. My purchases production will be again into 16, and my closing inventory, now as my opening inventory and my production is increased by the amount of fixed production overheads, my closing inventory will also have been increased. But closing inventory reduces your overall cost of sales because it is always deducted from it, and I'm not going to go into the concept there because you've already learned it from principles of accounting why this happens. So closing inventory is the key in marginal costing and absorption costing, which creates the difference of the cost of sales overall, right? So closing inventory was 1000 into 16. You'll see it why closing inventory is important. I'll show it to you when we go to the net profit area. So here we go. I'm going to format it a bit so that I'm going to now calculate the sum of cost of sales using absorption costing. Now you're going to start seeing the difference in the obviously in the calculations. With the gross profit that we have is under absorption costing is, let me put a minus sign here because it's less sales less cost of sales. There must have been an error. Alright, 182,000. As you can see, my contribution was 208 using marginal costing, but as we move to absorption costing, we increased the cost by 2 per unit because we included fixed production overhead into our cost of sales. So our gross profit went down accordingly. And then reducing admin costs. Admin costs will always be taken below the gross profit and the contribution line because these are not part of production. Cost of sales are only production costs. So marginal versus absorption will only segregate the variable production overheads with fixed production overheads. But any other fixed costs such as selling, admin, marketing and finance cost will always be shown below the gross profit line, right? So the net profit that we have is 182 minus fixed admin cost is 162,000. Now you can see that in marginal costing, our profit went down with how much? Let's actually identify the difference. Minus 162 with exactly 2000. Can you suggest where this difference came from? Closing inventory. The difference in marginal costing and absorption costings net profit will always be because of the difference in closing inventory. So the last thing that we're going to do today is under and over absorption. What is under and over absorption? I'm going to give you a little bit of trailer of under and over absorption, but we are going to put it into question later on. We are going to do it through an example later on. It is a very small part of it, but it is a very key area of management accounting in this chapter, that is absorption versus marginal costing, right? So under over absorption, what happens is that in marginal costing, fixed overheads, production overheads are not made a part of the cost of sales, correct? But in absorption costing, fixed production overheads are made part of the cost of sales. But we've learned that fixed overheads should not change and should remain constant. Now, if we use the OAR, which was 2 in this question, and it was based on the budgeted units of 12,000, right? Now, in first year, our production and our budgeted units were same, so there was no under over absorption. Under over absorption is created only when your production in 2010 changes with budgeted unit. So let's suppose your budgeted units were 12,000 and your actual production turned out to be 13,000, right? Now in this case, the fixed cost we calculated, was already given, was 24,000 fixed production, right? And based on the budgeted units, we calculated the OAR. But when the actual production starts differing from the budgeted units, your fixed production overhead will also change, right? Now, if we recalculate under the absorption costing, we recalculate the fixed overheads. My bad. So it will be 2 into 13, 26,000. Now our fixed overheads have gone up by 26,000 only because our actual production was more than your budgeted units. In this case, we need to bring down our fixed cost to its original amount. So what happens is that I'm going to draw a line here to actually clarify the concept. Your fixed cost should remain constant at 24,000, right? But because of the change in production, your fixed cost went up to 26,000, right? What are we going to do? We're going to bring it down. We have to bring it back to its original level because fixed costs don't change. This is called over-absorption. Over-absorption means that you have absorbed more cost than it actually was. So over-absorption means that you have to bring the absorption down to its original level. So in over-absorption, what do? You subtract the amount that was extra. So how much would you subtract? In this case, the difference was 2,000. So in over-absorption, you subtract the amount from where? Cost of sales. So what happens is when the production changes from its budgeted unit, over and under absorption is created. To eliminate the impact of over and under absorption, what we do is we bring our fixed cost to its original amount. because fixed costs don't change. So in this case, because there was an overabsorption, the fixed cost actually rose because of greater production. We will bring it back to its original amount by deducting the difference from cost of sales. So overabsorption works like an income, because that means that your fixed cost with production should have increased, but because fixed cost is a constant element, it shouldn't have increased. So you bring it down to its original level using the absorption approach. Now let's suppose the actual production changes from 13,000 to, in the next year, to 10,000, or let's say 11,000. The actual production goes down, right? That means your fixed cost will go down. So you will multiply the OAR. Remember, to calculate the new fixed cost, we will use the OAR approach. Into 11,000 will give us 22,000. That means that your fixed cost should have gone down because of the change in production. Again, fixed cost always remains constant and should have not gone down. So in this case, we have underabsorption. Underabsorption means you underabsorbed your cost. In this case, you have to go back up. By how much? 2000 again. So underabsorption states that you will add back the cost of fixed cost to go to its original level, to its benchmark level, to its constant level, and you will add the difference, the excess, in the cost of sales. This is known as the over-under absorption rule. Again, over-absorption means that you have created extra fixed cost which should have not been done. You want to go back to the original. You will reduce the difference created because of the change in production units from budgeted units, because OAR is always calculated on budgeted units and predetermined cost driver, not actual, not what happens later on, but predetermined, right? So overabsorption acts like an income and is deducted from the cost of sales because you're going to go down back to 24,000. In underabsorption, you have taken less fixed overheads, but your fixed overheads are actually more. In this case, you're going to increase your fixed overheads to the actual level, to the constant level. So this becomes an expense. So underabsorption is an expense to the income statement, and overabsorption acts as an income to the income statement. Underabsorption increases the cost of sales, overabsorption decreases the cost of sales. So this can be explained in the table, and the table can be made here. So I'm going to make a small table here. So we have cost of sales impact, then we have overabsorption. So overabsorption means what type it is. Overabsorption is an income which has to be reduced from the cost of sales. Remember, overabsorption, underabsorption must always be adjusted in cost of sales, not in net profit, not in contribution, not in gross profit. And using underabsorption approach, you will add it back, because in this case you have taken less fixed cost as it should have been, so it becomes an expense for you. So this is the table that is very important for you to memorize. You don't have to memorize it if your concepts are clear, if you understood what over and under absorption is. So this table will help you understand this concept of over and under absorption, right? So we've worked through the example, we've worked through the concept, we've understood the main difference between marginal and absorption, and what is the key difference between the net profit of both, why absorption, under absorption costing, why the net profit is less, because you are increasing the cost of sales by the fixed production amount, and in marginal costing you only take the variable costing amount, right? So you can see the whole working that I've done here. Please remember, your workings should mirror my workings. Why? Because if you do it in this systematic way, you will never make an error. So it's very important that you always work in a systematic way. You always go back to your question. Always go back to your question and see whether you've missed anything or not. In this, we haven't done 2010, but it's going to be done in exactly the same way as we did in 2009. Only difference of under and over absorption, which I've done separately with you. So what we're going to do is, in the next class, we're going to go into a bit detail, which is we're going to start off with traditional absorption costing, and we're going to go and understand how it creates a difference when we go into ABC costing, right? So I'm going to summarize what we've done today. The key takeaways from today's lecture was, what is the key terms that are used in management accounting, how to calculate overhead absorption rate, what are actually overheads, what is a cost matrix, the graphical representation of costs, and how to differentiate between marginal costing and absorption costing. And the last and the most important was to differentiate between under absorption and over absorption, and how it is created, and how it impacts the cost of sales area of the income statement and the financial statements of cost accounting. I hope you have understood. I am always available for any queries that you might have. I'm always available for any questions that you might have regarding the lecture. Anything that confuses you, any concept that is still not clear, I'm available to help you out. I wish you all the best and looking forward for our next lecture. Thank you.